Thank the heavens for Quai.
Yes. Praise the Quai.
Praise the
Praise.
Quai. Praise be.
Praise.
Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is Quackcast number 646. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Baines and Tarts.
Hello.
Hello. This week we're talking about life drawing for fight scenes, which is a kind of fun, exciting thing to talk about. And there's a reason behind that. But we'll get into all that. Drawing for fight scenes, which is, oh my god. I mean, when you're doing fight scenes, it's a very tricky thing to do. Like, to draw a proper fight scene, especially like hand-to-hand or, swords, which is mainly, what we're going to be talking about. But even guns, it's really tricky to do. I haven't done many of it myself. Like, I've done a couple of hand-to-hand kind of things, and I don't know, I don't think they turned out that well, but it's tricky stuff. But before we get into that, we got to talk about the featured comic. Quackcast has given us a feature this week, and she has featured this comic called Oi, Tales of Bardic Fury. So Quai, tell us about Oi, Tales of Bardic Fury.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Oi, Tales of Bardic Fury by Oh Meow, and it is rated E for everyone. Brian, fresh out of college in Terra, is moving toward a path to become a full-fledged bard. The entire process to become a poet, minstrel, or chronicler takes a lengthy 12 years to complete. Bard lute in hand, Brian journeys to a tiny shanty town in the north called Oi in order to gain 1 year of work experience. Translation: drinking mead and frolicking on the beach. The gap year is starting to sound splendid following the meeting of Servius of Sicilia, a local slave naturally gifted in music. The art follows a muted olive green, dandelion, sage, sand, and taupe color scheme. Full-sized comic page layout. Venture to Oi to enjoy poetry in the glen and read Oi, Tales of Bardic Fury by Oh Meow, rated E.
And that was Quai talking about Oi, Tales of Bardic Fury. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Gunwallis's featured music for today. So this week, Gunwallis is featured. No, that's not right. That's shit. Okay, so I'll do it again. This week, Gunwallis has created a theme to Echoes. A mystery is about to be uncovered, but how deep does it really go? This highly cinematic tune delves deeper and deeper into the shadowed and windy, dusty, dark spaces to find out things we never suspected or even dreamed of. When, oh when, will Peter Jackson hire Gunwallis to write the scores for his films? That's what I want to know. Take it away, Gunwallis, with your theme to Echo. Gum Wallace with his fantastic theme to Echoes, which is a comic by Used Books and it's rated T for teen. Alright, so now we're talking about fights. Drawing fights from life. No, not really. Yeah, I think we are. We're talking about like when you're drawing fight scenes or any kind of thing, like you could use life drawing to help you do your comic drawing better. And fight scenes especially, because those are really tricky. You know, that involves all kinds of interesting, weird, complicated poses with weapons, or maybe like hand-to-hand fighting or something like this, from different angles and things. And often there's like two people. You don't just want to have one person to fight because that would be strange, but you have two people or more involved in a fight. Like, especially if it's a melee, a battle, oh my god, that's hard to do. So you've got to work with like multiple figures. So you've got to get proportions right, and the distances from the figures and things like this. It's quite hard. So life drawing makes that a little bit easier. Like, have you ever tried doing a fight scene without reference? I have, because even though I trained at, doing life drawing for many years, I'm stupid and lazy and I just draw stuff straight from my head. And it turns out, shit, it really does. I look back at my old artwork of showing fights and they're really bad. Baines, what about you? Do you...
Yeah, same. I'm trying to think if I've ever used references. I'm sure I must have at some point, but for the most part, the little bit of physical fighting I've done in my comics has been sort of imagined. I kind of doodle it and probably make a couple attempts to make it look cool and stuff like that. But it's definitely a big weakness in my comics, I would say.
As an artist, do you think, well, I just can't be buggered, like finding poses of people and like, or posing myself in front of a camera, and it's just like a step too far. But it's useful to take that step, especially if you want to, like, what I find is when I'm drawing like a complicated fight scene or like any kind of complicated thing, it gets too hard and I spend ages bloody doing it. So it could save so much time just getting in front of a mirror or setting your phone up, taking a few photos, or actually searching for like reference photos on Google is a freaking nightmare. There's no help whatsoever because you never find exactly the ones you want. They're always slightly wrong. So you either change what you want to draw to match the pose that you've been able to find that's close, or you just keep on drawing the thing over and over and over again until you think, oh no, I'm going to die if I keep doing this. So I just settle.
Yeah. Story of my life, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so much easier to get on a pose or get someone else to do the pose, or get a model and photograph them or whatever. That's what all the greats did. That's what the comic artists in the past, they didn't all draw from their heads. They would get models to pose. Even now, that's what like comic artists do, or they steal from porn. Like Ed Land, I think. Ned Land, something like that.
Yeah, but the problem with that, though, is that the wrestling has a completely different purpose.
Because those characters getting a bit too close.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of stabbing I want, that's... No.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. The easiest thing I have found is either just shoot your own photos and simulate the pose as best as you can, assuming that you have no props. Like I don't have any kind of weapon prop, so I basically use a banana.
Oh, you got that bayonet.
I do have the bayonet. That is an excellent one. Thanks, Oz, because Oz has provided me with one. Um, but yeah, beyond that, like for when I in Without Moonlight, I was drawing all the Lugers and stuff, and the gunfights and whatever. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I had like a broomstick and a banana, and then yeah, I had to adjust from there.
Was the
But
banana
now
loaded?
it is,
Oh, that's dangerous times.
it shoots banana fritters. um, and now with the new comic that hasn't launched yet, but I do have pages. Um, it's been a pain because beyond the having to draw the thing, before that you have to choreograph what you want, and then you have to either find the references or make them. And yeah, it's easily each page took me 2 or 3 times more
Wow.
than making a Without Moonlight page. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I can
because it
imagine.
was puzzling out exactly how to depict certain things, and yeah,
Yeah, because it's different kinds of fighting from what you're used to. Because you're used to your brain sort of in the gun kind of long range shooting mode
mm,
and ducking behind cover and stuff like that, which is a very different style of fighting from hand to hand stuff. Which means people are much closer. They're physically in contact with each other. They're swinging things as opposed to aiming, which creates different
Yeah.
body positions.
There's
yeah,
infinite variety. Like you have camera angles, and you also have like, I mean, the emotional drama of the moment, whatever it happens to be in that scene, or in that moment, and also the to feel the impact to whatever level you want. I mean, there's like 3D modeling and 3D posing, but
True.
that, I think you also need the weight. You guys were talking about it on Patreon or off the air, like where the characters are at that moment, and where the weight is, where the impact is, just for the kind of the realism of the moment plus the drama. There's like so many skills that come into
and
putting this together.
so like for a short fight, you need full body shots, or at least like 3/4 of the entire body at least, a lot more than you do with a gunfight, and that is y- you have to stage the panel differently for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot involved in sword play because there's a position of feet and legs and stuff like that, and the way the movement and the weight goes through the whole body is very different. Because in a gunfight, you don't necessarily need that, but in sword fighting, you do. Because the distance is covered by the bullets in gunfighting,
Yeah,
and
and the force as well. It's like
yeah,
the great
exactly.
equalizer.
Whereas in sword fighting, you need the position of the legs. It's deathly important. Yeah, transfers the force and it can protect you and all this kind of stuff. So it's
Yeah.
and we were also talking about the idea that okay, so we've got like real sword fighting, or what we can sort of see as close to real sword fighting as we can get. Things like a kenjutsu and hema, which is historical European martial arts, and to a lesser extent something like kendo and Olympic fencing, where people are trying to score points and avoid touching each other, which it sort of relates to real sword fighting in an indirect way, but it does. But so in those kind of things, we can see sort of what real sword fighting is like, and it often doesn't look that cool in a lot of ways because you're fighting to protect yourself, not to look good. And you're hiding behind the blade, you're hunching behind it, you're keeping as much of your body away from the other person as possible, out of their reach, so it can't be cut. Which means that you're not like showing off how cool you look and showing off your muscle tone and stuff like that. You're hiding and you're crouching and you're ducking and all this kind of stuff, which means doesn't always look that great and heroic in artwork. So I find there's got to be like a when you're depicting kind of sword fighting or European fighting or even Japanese fighting in a way that looks good, you've sort of got to do it between a kind of stage fighting look, an artificial, a stylized look, and the real stuff. You've sort of got to get a happy...
Like a middle way, sort of, a bit.
Sounds sweet. Or what's the middle way?
Well, if you really want to do it like a really kind of stage fighting way, then there's a lot of stupid stuff like spins. Because you'd never do a spin in a real sword fight. It looks good on screen, but it exposes your back and you can't see what the other person's doing while you're doing a spin. So you just don't have spins in sword fighting, which they always do in movies and TV shows. So that's
less likely in a comic, probably.
Yeah.
But thankfully, in a comic, it wouldn't look that good either, like spinning. So you don't need to do that.
It could though, because you're showing the character do one thing and another one you have movement lines and that kind of stuff. But that's an example of going all the way to show just something that looks fancy. So versus something that looks more real, so character like facing side onto another one, so their whole body is like narrow behind the sword, which means like you're completely side on. The sword is the furthest thing away from you, pointing towards the other character, which doesn't really look that good. So that's going totally the other way. So if we want to like do a middle ground, we have the characters so their bodies are more facing each other rather than just side on. So that means you get to draw more of the front on of the character and their swords sticking out, which is not, it's not totally inaccurate, but it's not going fully practical sword fighting, going towards the manuals. Anyway, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, or you choose like the angle strategically, in the sense that they are hiding behind their swords, but the camera isn't. Like the camera has panned to the right or to the left, and now you have a nice perspective angle where you see how well the fighter is positioned or something like that, while they remain basically hidden behind their sword as far as their opponent is concerned. So you can do that as well, or a low angle or a high angle, things that look dramatic even though the position itself is not as wow.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like overhand sword strikes are something that, again, that's something you see in kendo, because if it gives someone more points in that kind of fighting. But so that's not something you see as much in European martial arts, and even I imagine in Japanese like actual martial arts versus the sport related stuff. Because so an overhead strike opens you up to attack very easily because your sword is away from your body and you're not protecting anything basically. So someone can gut you if they're careful. You have to like really choose your moment to do your overhead strike when you're safe to do so. But again, like if you're chopping down on someone's head, that's a really hard bit of gear. And in sword fights, like in the olden days, people were wearing helmets and often like shoulder armor, pauldrons. You can't do any damage to them with a sword with the pauldrons and helmets. So it's pretty freaking useless. So again, that's something that looks fantastic in artwork and it looks really cool in a comic or a movie, but it's not something you would do very often. Overhead strikes are just not that useful. Even if someone's not wearing armor and stuff like that, you might chop into their shoulder and that's going to really hurt them. But if you hit them on the head, often a sword, you could kill someone like very, very quickly if you chop into their head, but a lot of times that sword's just going to glance off the bone. And
That was the purpose of the helmet. The helmet. Yeah. You could go for the under the shaft of the jaw, like under the head, I guess, but that would take a master, I expect. So.
Oh yeah, and there's different kinds of helmets that block that. They have throat guards and gorgets and things like that, wrappers, all sorts of stuff. Even if we're talking about 19th century saber fighting, we had stocks which are made of hardened leather on the neck that people wore. So your neck was protected a lot of the time. Yeah. But a throat strike is quite different from an overhead strike. Again, so it can be more protected, and it's a lot easier to do.
There's also another thing that these are sword fights. When you have mismatched weapons, that's another choreography altogether. Like I plan one of my characters to have like his choice, his weapon of choice will be like small battle axes. And
like tomahawks?
Like tomahawks, yeah. And that's a completely different kind of worms than a sword, and so on and so forth. So you need different choreographies for all of that.
Yeah, that's complicated. So, like, if someone's using small axes, so one of the things, like, we know in reality when someone was using small axes is that they often threw them. So, especially if you have two, then you can throw one and still have the other one. And that's a fantastic piece of shock and awe tactic to use. But you've got less reach with them. I'll go on, Tom.
Yeah, but he's a witch, so he can actually throw it with force from magic and stuff like that. So yeah, he's going to be freaking terrible for everybody involved. But there is beyond magic and fantasy. There is also someone who has a mace, and I don't mean a mace with a chain, which is dangerous to yourself as well, but like just a stick with a big chunk of metal on the end.
That's a mace, yeah.
Yeah, where you don't care to break skin. All you need to do is to cause enough blunt force impact to break a bone under the armor, for example, or make it incapacitate an armor wearer, even though, for example, you will not be breaking skin, but you will be breaking bones. Or
you dent the armor enough that it's useless and have to take it off. Or the armor injures someone because it crumples into them. So so the thing with a mace or any kind of club-like weapon is, or even an axe, because it's quite similar. You've got the weight all the way out on the end, so the swing is directed towards the end of the thing where all the weight is. So that is all being transferred right to the end. Versus a sword where the weight is sort of in the middle, so there's not so much force involved in those hits. So yeah, if you're showing someone doing a mace strike or an axe strike, you've got to show a lot of force in that. Yeah. Even for light hits. Sorry, Beck?
Yeah. And then you have the spear, where the whole point of the spear, pun not actually intended, is to not allow anyone close to you. So you could have an excellent sword fighter, but they cannot get close enough to be in range because the spear doesn't let them. And That's also another thing. And you have to look at all of these to even have an idea how to choreograph any of this. So yeah,
Yes.
Scala Grim's channel is very useful.
Yeah, spear fighting is an interesting thing. But yeah, like you say, it's about distance. So how do you do to pick two spear fighters? Are they both trying to keep their distance? What's happening there? And there's different. Oh, sorry, go on.
Probably, yeah, they would probably both try to keep distance and get into the other one's range, I guess.
And there's different kinds of spears as well. So we have what is often called a hewing spear, which is a spear that's with a longer blade designed for cutting as well as stabbing. So we've got those kind of spears. We have more kind of like so that's more for stabbing. Then we have obviously the spears that have throwing kind of built into the idea of using them. So, you know, if someone wants to close distance or whatever, they can just throw the spear. You have really long kind of spear things like a
Sarsa.
or like a pike, which is super long. We have wide blade spears called a partisan, which has a very wide blade, and that's for like more like even fighting with a halberd. It's more like that kind of stuff. So it's more like chopping with the end of it. So yeah, and then we have different kind of pole weapons that change the equation again. So we have obviously halberds that has a basically a chopping head with a long spear point and a hook on it. But then we have things like a naginata. So that's a Japanese weapon with a very long kind of sword, kind of curved sword, or a Jedburgh axe, which has a very big flat blade on it, a bill hook. Again, you've got a lot of like hooky kind of cutty weapons, and when you're getting into the halberd kind of Jedburgh axe kind of whatever, the fighting style involved there is basically aimed at tripping people up and controlling people from a distance, like hooking around their neck and hooking under their foot and tripping them over, and maybe doing a huge overhead chop. But there'd be less of that because as Tance, you were saying, like, you're keeping them at a distance. You're not just trying to just slice them to pieces. So it's quite interesting. Do you have I know you're saying you've got magic in the comic as a weapon, but do you have things like bows and arrows and crossbows and things like that?
Yeah, all of that. No, not crossbows. I don't have crossbows. I might eventually, I don't know. But I haven't really pictured the world as having crossbows because the magic does it for both sides in a way. Because the knights are like clerics, D&D clerics in a sense, and the witches are witches. But the thing is, when I plan eventually to draw the witches casting, and they are both male and female, the idea is for them to also have weight in their poses. Like they will be heaving the energy. So it won't be like swatting flies, the way that they will have to sort of heave the energy and throw the energy. So I will also need that sort of thing, because it's not going to be an easy task to do. And yeah, it's not like, oh, okay, let's throw a fireball at this guy while I'm sipping my martini, and yeah, it's not going to be that. Yeah.
With a little finger strike, so it's actually if you want to throw a huge fireball at someone, it's like lifting a box and then picking the box up and then hurling it at someone.
Yeah, or like pulling it with a lot of, like, it is resisting you and you're pulling it out of the atmosphere to form it, and then you throw it and stuff. Like it has to look visceral, especially because they are going to be very elemental, all of them. So yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that makes it more, yeah, like you say, visceral, more kind of like it connects with the viewer more as something to do with like fighting an effort, and it looks more real. Sorry, Beth?
yeah,
I was just agreeing. Yeah, for sure. That's like
yeah.
crucial, I think, for people
So,
to get
so
invested and be
mhm.
excited about it.
For my references for that, for the magic use, the use of magic, um, what I plan to do is to actually have heavy stuff that I lift or that I pull, or like I try to pull the door or whatever, so that I have a lot of force engaged
Yeah.
in the pose, and my mom is going to shoot the to
Yeah.
shoot
Nice.
the reference photo. So like heavy buckets of water and that I lift or something like that, so that I see how the body adjusts force and weight when you are using this much energy. So
Yeah. Yeah, the different poses and the different kind of ways of that you have to stand in order to do
hmm
it. That was a really tricky thing when I was doing the sword photos for you. Like initially, I was like, you warm up to these things whenever you do a photo shoot or whatever, or acting or something like that. There has to be a period of like getting into it slowly, and so I started off doing these different sword poses, and one of the things I noticed was, I was moving the sword around, but I'm just like standing there in the same kind of pose, like standing straight up and down, and that's not how a sword fight is. You don't just move your body like your chest and your arms. You've and just stand still, like in a static pose. You have to like position the legs in some way, like bend your knees and like spread the legs apart and all this kind of stuff, which is really tricky to do when you're not actually fighting someone for real.
yeah, that's super hard. That's why your photos are so amazing, because they do look like you are fighting someone. So
Well,
kudos.
oh, thanks. I mean, not initially, but
Well, those are I haven't seen the entire package yet because
yeah, it
I
took a while to upload them.
yeah, but the photos that I have seen are amazing. So
Oh, thank you. But yeah, that's one thing. If you ever want to like take your own fight photos, of just swinging like a baseball bat around or a club or a paper roll of a tube or something like that, don't forget that you got to position your legs as well,
yeah,
because it's so easy to forget.
hmm
So many, like you see, especially like dorky people will post their pictures of themselves holding swords, trying to look aggressive. Like there's even photos I think of Elon Musk posing with a katana. Um, yeah, it's so funny. Back when in the early days of him posting photos online. But the thing people always do is they don't have the legs positioned in a way that indicates that you're fighting. So it sort of it undercuts the whole action thing that you're trying to convey. So yeah, that's an important factor, and
hmm
that would be a thing as well if you're drawing an action pose. Get the legs looking like they're participating in the action, not just
yeah,
the upper body. And
yeah,
that goes for any kind of action. Like gunfights, whatever. We often forget to position legs. We really do. Like gunfights look especially great if you've got the legs in the right kind of position.
hmm absolutely, yeah. Uh, and what I found so far, I mean, I don't know, I have really only drawn one spar yet. Uh, but what helped me a lot was video,
Yeah.
where people are actually fighting, even play fighting, still needs, the force and the movement and everything. And I took stills from those fights to see how the legs are positioned, or how they move in space, and that also helped a lot. um, yeah.
Yeah, it really, really does. Although, as I said before, there's the kind of poses often of those fights can be a bit um like mannered, especially if someone's really, really following the manuals very well. Although
Hmm.
when you see them sparring, they often deviate from the manuals, and you see them
Yeah.
coming into closing fights. One thing that's not useful, I will say, if you're wanting to use video to depict fights, is this stuff. I can't remember what it's called, like Battle of Nations. Battle of Nations. So that is this weird version of people have armor on, right? And they've
Yeah.
swords, which are basically a pole with a sort of a handguard, and it's meant to be, oh yeah, this is meant to be a way of like showing like actual armored fighting in a sport, but it really is so nothing whatsoever to do with like actual European like knights. It's
Mm.
just people wailing on each other with a stick in pretend armor, and the armor looks crap, and the actual weapons look crap, and the fighting looks crap too. They're just whacking on each other in the same kind of way over and over again, like kendo, basically. With those overhead strikes, just whack, 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 and there's no art to it. There's no technique.
I'm amazed that I didn't come across any of that.
Yeah,
So
look up Battle of Nations.
I will.
It's just crap. I mean, maybe someone might disagree with me. Fair enough. I'm not right about everything, even though I pretend to be. I'm full of crap. The Dunning-Kruger effect is in full show with me all the time. So, I admit to that. But from my point of view, I think it doesn't look like European fighting at all. And
Mhm.
like people will look at it and justify it and say, yeah, but European fighting wasn't all about following the manuals and all this. They would have just been trying to kill each other. But these people aren't trying to kill each other. They're trying to score points in a sport, and you wouldn't be doing that in an actual fight with armored knights. You would be whacking someone over and over and over again with a sword anyway, because it wouldn't do anything. So no one would ever do that. So, and even with a mace, you would be just hitting the same spot over and over. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, no. For sure. But I'm going to check it out just because it sounds like fun if you participate. And
Yeah. Oh, it would be.
yeah, but ugly looking. So I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, and when I say it looks crap and not like anything to do with the like real fighting, I'm not taking away from the skill of the people who do it, because like I don't like football. I don't like a lot of sports, but obviously that takes a hell of a lot of skill and practice to be a part of. So I'm not saying those people are idiots. I'm just saying it doesn't look to me like a very good representation of actual European fighting.
Mhm.
Obviously, those people are highly skilled, and it's fantastic that they do something they enjoy and they put all their efforts into that, and they wear great armor and have a lot of fun, like Kant says. So yeah, it's don't take my negative words as condemnation of those people.
No, we're just talking like drawing from life basically for fights, and where you get the good references in a sense. That's the only thing that we're talking about,
Yeah.
really. So
Oh, exactly. Yeah, yeah. As an artistic thing. Well, I mean, like I've monopolized this and talked more than anyone else. Like Baines, you've done some fighting in your comics, haven't you? So, what have been your
Yeah,
techniques?
mostly with my boss because I'm supposed to be working. And I received a verbal thrashing that I'll send some pictures of that if I can. No, that's not true. Yeah, a little bit, very very little bit here and there. The comic I haven't really had a chance to update it lately. Is with the most fighting is Chatterbox with the two
Oh
agents,
yeah.
and they have to maybe a small degree. One of them has significant physical enhancements. The other is very strong, sort of almost unnaturally strong and athletic, with a small mass. So there's sort of, that's where the thought goes into it there. Mostly it's making it, as cool as I can, trying to make it intense, emotionally significant, and, where the hits feel like hits, they feel, just those basic things. Like you want people to be into it, but also the physics of it. There's some thought like, yes, she's strong, but she's very tiny, so that's gonna limit her. So it's thinking about that kind of thing, and to some degree anyway, and
Okay.
trying to choose the best moments. This is less life drawing and more like Marvel method, kind of choosing like the full extension of a hit, like where to take your snapshot. It's that
That's a
kind of
good
stuff.
point.
I didn't use any life models for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what shows the force of the hit, and what shows like, where the drama is traveling in the panel, you know,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
you show the significant moment it's going to happen, and you think, yeah, well, you've got to show that this character is going to is going to deliver a lot of force to that character, and you
Yeah.
don't want someone to be confused about that.
Yeah. That's where a lot of the thought went into it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not simple.
Yeah,
Not
and
simple task.
and that no, that's excellent staging, and I can't help myself. I will be negative to Star Wars, but not the late, the most recent trilogy this time. Shockingly, I'm talking. I want to talk about the lightsaber fight between Yoda and Count Dooku, or I don't
Oh
remember
yeah.
who.
Yeah.
Like a much bigger Jedi, Sith, whatever. And the thing was that I found it funny. I honestly laughed when I saw it the first time, and that's not what they wanted to convey, because they have this tiny little creature that is Yoda spinning like a ball against,
Yes.
against this a much taller guy, bigger, taller in every way, and it looks like he's fighting off a very like fluorescent fly, and doesn't look very imposing, or like you have this Clash of Titans sort of thing, which I guess was what was supposed to be happening over there. Like I would have expected a fight between a small guy and a big guy to be exploiting different, like not going at the same level, like crossing like lightsabers like that.
Mm.
I would expect Yoda to have the lightsaber at least floating, with the force, and just pushing forward, and being much larger because he's a lot stronger in the force than the Sith, and things like this. Like take into consideration the physical attributes of the people being involved in your physical fight, physical slash magic fight, is what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
it doesn't look funny because it looked, and every time I see it, and there are so many people that really like it, and I'm glad that they do, but I find it funny. It looks funny to me. It's hilarious. I laugh every time.
It really, really is. Yeah, this little bouncy ball versus.
Yeah.
Just no, that's just dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. You want to show a good fight with a
Yeah.
small guy versus a big guy, well, and he's meant to be so super powerful. Like he's
No, I mean
training
he's.
Luke.
I understand. Even like the bouncy, is very powerful and he's a lot faster and he's more skilled and you know all of that. But at least to me, it translated. It gave me the wrong reaction.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, you see Yoda in the original trilogy. You'd never imagine him as a little bouncy ball with a lot of energy. That would just be silly. That'd be dumb. You would
That's what I was
expect.
thinking. Yeah, there's something to that take too. That should he even have been fighting with a lightsaber at all? Should it have been like
Yeah.
that at all?
I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind him fighting with a lightsaber if he used it in ways that nobody else does. In a sense, like have him be like standing at a rock at some vantage point, and then he just projects all this energy, and the Sith can't even get near him, and the lightsaber floats and ignites and then extinguishes and then shoots around and stuff, and he has to basically fight a thing and not even have a chance to go near Yoda. Make Yoda
Hmm.
terrifying.
Or Yoda just the Force
Hmm.
creates a lot of gravity, which prevents the Sith from doing anything. It just
Yeah,
holds him down, just leaves him in awe, and that's what you'd
exactly.
expect. Because when we saw the original movie, it was just about Force. It wasn't
Hmm.
ever about lightsaber stuff at all.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, that was
it
just
was a
the
mask.
expression that the Jedi Knights used.
Hmm.
Exactly. So
Chance, I think of this. Sorry, Ozzy, go ahead.
actually showing him fighting reduces his power in our eyes.
Yeah,
Anyway, so
and
go, Bones.
this made me think of this movie, Big Trouble in Little China, one of my all-time
Oh
favorites.
yeah.
Don't know if you've seen it, Chance, but there's a moment in it where these are not the main characters, but there's sort of the good wizard, the good master, and the evil
Hmm.
master have their moment where they clash. And it's done in a very interesting way. And the movie's full of there's some guns, but it's a lot of swords, it's a lot of hand-to-hand combat. Um, some really fun action in it, as silly as it is. But there's a moment between these two masters, very different vibe to the Star Wars fight you're talking about. And Star Wars was going for better or worse, they're going for a super fast, dazzling thing. The one in Big Trouble in Little China in the last act is so cool. And the way they have combat between these two masters and the way that's expressed, this magical duel, is very interesting and different and, worth a look.
Oh, I probably will check it out like right after we finish recording this. So
Oh,
Oh,
it's
watch the
it
entire
sounds
film.
amazing.
It's awesome.
a great
Watch
movie.
the
Mhm.
entire
Oh,
film.
I will. I
It's
will.
so
Very
good.
multiple genres. But yes, towards the end of the movie, that's a very cool moment to me, and very original.
Oh,
That's
it's beautiful.
all in the reflexes.
See, what other? We're running out of time, I think. So what other good fight movies are good to watch? Highlander is a classic. It's weird. I don't know in the fights it depicts. It's I really can't remember them too much. But as a child, I loved it
Mm.
anyway.
Uh, it Princess Bride has good fencing, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially the initial duel between Inigo and
yeah,
the Dread Pirate Roberts.
yeah. And I think there are sword masters that have said that they are pretty legit in how they fight.
Yeah, it's amazing. They actually mention the manuals that they
Mm.
draw inspiration from. So yeah, they
Mhm.
know actually what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So yeah, so there's two fights in that I think, but the second one is really not. No, there's three.
Uh,
There's Inigo Montoya and the Man in Black. Then there's the Man in Black and the
Andre.
and Humperdinck. And
mm-hmm.
there's also the Six Fingered Man and Inigo, but I don't know if those fights are anything compared to Inigo.
No, I think the best,
Man in Black.
like the peak sword fighting is between the Dread Pirate and Inigo Montoya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, that's right, like towards the beginning of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's how they say hello. Basically, they get to know each other.
Yeah. And it's epic and it's heightened and it's given this kind of sort
Yeah,
of mythical fairy tale thing. But yeah, the
yeah,
sword fight itself is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's beautifully stylized. It does all. I mean, it does a lot of things that are wrong
hmm
and obviously influenced by, I don't know, the classic like Errol Flynn sort of, you know,
Right.
golden age of cinema kind of stuff. You know, like spinning on a bar, you know,
yeah,
jumping off a cliff, catching a sword in midair,
yeah.
throwing it to a different hand, all that kind of stuff. A spin. I think there's at
But
least one
you
of
know what
those.
though? Because they are basically ribbing each other in a sense. Like they are teasing each other. It feels more like a spar than an actual fight because neither of them are really interested in killing each other. And I think that much is obvious from almost the beginning of the fight. So they feel more like they are basically starting a bromance than anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautifully a very companionable fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the classic kind of ones of the golden age of cinema where people, you know, like in modern day, when they show sword fights in films, they like to cut and switch
Yeah.
between everything. And say in The Witcher, the kind of fighting there is very influenced by this, you know, this Guy Ritchie kind of thing and modern kind of funky kind
Yeah.
of moves like backdooring and stuff, like not real kind of real sword fighting. So I would personally go for the golden age of cinema and the pirate films with Errol Flynn and those kind of actors, because that they don't tend to cut and have close-ups and distance ones. They show the whole thing as like a stage fight. You know, people moving from here to there, all around the set and up into the rigging of a ship or something like that, and it's amazing to watch. You can really see the flow of the action as people move around.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, the John Wick kind of like quick, which
Yeah.
I hate.
Same. I don't really like when they have too many cuts, and I cannot understand where they are and how they are moving in the space where
Oh
they are.
man, that has this immediate like effect of boring you. And like you said earlier about comics, like the eye wanders away from the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You tune out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't understand it. How are you supposed to care about it when you can't even understand it?
It
Exactly.
becomes too choreographed, and people
Mhm.
like look at the John Wick stuff and they look at that as the zenith of fighting films. Like, oh, that is like, it's working. But from my perspective, and you know, sure, I'm wrong. It's just my opinion. I just think it's too perfect. It's
Yeah.
too
Well,
choreographed.
you know what? From my perspective, they are my guilty pleasure. I really like watching John Wick, mow down mooks. Uh, but it doesn't feel realistic. It feels like a Marvel comic book superhero level. Uh, it's not fighting. It's not even a fight because he's so OP. He's super powered basically. So I love it, but I wouldn't reference it.
I haven't seen it. And any of the John Wick. Like I was talking about the concept in general of the quick cutting. But yeah, personally, I still haven't seen those movies. I've heard great things. Anyway.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think. Go
I've seen the
ahead.
first one and half the second one, and I haven't seen any of the rest. So.
I've seen the first three. No, the first two for sure. The third one, I'm not sure, which I don't know what that says. uh, but I enjoyed them, especially the first. The first one is the best, in my opinion.
You're right.
Yeah,
Is there a
Like,
fourth one? Are they up to 4?
yeah,
That's right, right? Wow. Yeah.
I think you would enjoy at least number one, Baines.
I've heard great. I've heard actually pretty much nothing but great things about those movies, and I'm sure the first one's the best. It makes sense. Be the most
the
emotional.
others,
Yeah.
you know what I would reference from the John Wick movies, the strategy for the sequels, in the sense that they expand the world, and the plot is not exactly the same, with just the like an excuse for repeating the plot, which is something I really appreciate and I don't really see in sequels. But yeah, beyond that, it's basically a superpowered guy. A superpowered guy. His superpower is to never miss a target and to also be indestructible, like and not feel pain or whatever. And
To be absolutely competent. He's super
yeah,
competent.
he's perfect. He's perfect in that.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
You know,
Great.
a good like antidote to that super competence was the film. I think Bullet Train is what it's called. So this was a film that it came out very recently. It's with Brad Pitt starring, and it's about a bunch of hitmen stuck on a train, and they're all after each other
Oh,
because there's all kind of confusion and people end up killing each other. A whole bunch of hitmen, but it really is a super antidote to the absolute competence shown in John Wick, where like everyone's like, chew, move the hand there, here, gun, bang, bang, shoot. So in this film, they're trying to do that. People always like are falling over and crashing into things and smashing their heads on cupboards and all this kind of stuff. And
oh,
the clip falls out of the gun when they try and shoot. And it's
oh!
a
That
very
sounds amazing.
different kind of way of showing it. Yeah,
That sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
it
The
still like has go on.
no, you go on.
It still has a level of choreographed kind of fight stuff, but with a lot more accident and kind of clumsiness in there, which adds a lot of comedy and a lot of fun in a kind of Buster Keaton sense. And yeah, I liked it. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I would just add my own 2 cents in an antidote to John Wick that I enjoyed, and that was Johnny English, both movies.
Oh.
Oh, right.
I laughed.
This is...
I laughed the hell out of this movie. Like it's he's incompetent, competent, and incompetent at the same time, and I love that he has the worst of luck, and he's also full of himself, and he can perform, but it's not a given that he will, and I love it, and it's so much comedy over this.
Oh, nice. That guy is funny.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, good old Ron Atkinson.
That hyper competence thing is an interesting, like, it's a tangent to this topic, of course, but that can be a little. I like it. Like, I like Kill Bill, and I like comics and superheroes and stuff. I think of the Kingsman, where it's like super competence, like insanely skilled. Even the trainees pretty quickly become amazing at everything, kind of thing. And I saw the first one, and it's good. It's good. I liked it, but it's a little bit like the Star Wars prequels again are super hyper competent fights, super choreographed. It's a little bit alienating or something. It's hard to really get
stylizes it too much.
It depends how you do it. Maybe John Wick is good because I like the Bourne Identity. He's super competent. So maybe.
Yeah, I don't know the way that they present it for me, because clearly Oz is not on that boat. But
Right.
for me, they lean into it, and they are that kind of character that is super powered, and every other character in the cast recognizes that they are ridiculously overpowered, and it's part of the plot. So that's, for me, that's why it works. There is this in the beginning, in the first movie, there is this little speech that the big mob boss that is like the kingpin of a super empire of crime that gives about who John Wick is. And it's like he immediately tells you from the get-go, and it's not even a spoiler, that there is no stopping this guy. He cannot be stopped, period. And the only thing that you can watch is how he will not be stopped, even though everyone is trying to stop him. And that's the plot.
Right.
It's not, they are not trying to play it like, oh, will he do it?
Yeah.
They tell you from the beginning he's doing it. Period. Now that you you know say shook the wasp's nest, it's over for you, and we're just going to watch how you get killed. That's all we're doing now.
See, I prefer the fights that you have, say, in the first Indiana Jones film, where he's just a normal guy. You know, we know he's an adventurer, but you really see that he's just a normal guy, and he's doing what any of us would do in a fight. And whether it's fist fighting or shooting someone with a gun or whatever and trying to whip them, and you feel a lot more for him. You're not just watching it as a spectacle. Let's see this fight, how it progresses. You're going, oh my god, I hope he survives. Jesus,
Yeah.
how's he gonna win against this character? Because when he gets injured, it affects him. So John Wick's getting injured all over, like he falls off his motorbike and he gets shot and punched and cut. But it could be just like, it may as well just they're shooting with paintballs, because none of that doing anything to him. Like he might limp in a scene, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually have any effect on this superhuman figure. So yeah, the Indiana Jones thing is what I would more tend towards.
Yeah, it's a complete I enjoy all of that, like all of it. I have no problem like rolling with what the purpose of, like, what the plot sets up, as long as the plot sets it up and doesn't try to con me into something that it is not doing. So like in the John Wick thing, if they were saying, oh my god, we don't know if he's going to survive, and he's doing super like god mode things, then I would be, yeah, no, I'm not watching this. But they are not doing that. So if when I want to watch someone on god mode, that's exactly what movie I'm going to look for. I'm going to put on John Wick. If I want to see the Everyman, I'm probably going to see Indiana Jones more, and if I want something in the middle, I'm going to see Jack Reacher. So.
All right.
And there's the new film. I know. Baines, have you seen it? Nobody, with the actor from Better Call Saul.
No, I haven't seen it. I think people liked it though, and it's kind of John Wick-ish, as I understand. But I haven't seen any of these movies.
No, me neither.
It's not really John Wick. It's slightly different because he's okay. This guy, he's an older retired guy. He used to be some kind of operative. I don't know. Super duper John Wick kind of operative. But he's much older. And he's just this, total nobody guy. And when he gets into these fights, they really do, like, give him a level of, like, physical pain and injury, and it affects him a lot. So it's interesting to see someone that much older perform, fight moves that will work for his body, that will work for his physicality. So he's not just, able to rip off super, like, Neo fight moves that you would see in the Matrix, as, people tend to do in superhero movies. Everybody's like a super expert fighter, no matter what their physicality or their age or their tiny people or big people or whatever. the tiniest ladies can beat up the biggest guys with,
Yeah.
as if they weigh 300 kilos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With enormous muscle. But in this film, he does fight moves that work for his injured, arthritic 55-year-old frame, and it looks effective in that way. Although Baines, yeah, you are right, it's a little John Wickish in that he's very hyper competent in what he does.
Right. Okay, I'm curious. Yeah, well, this is inspiring me. I got to see John Wick. I'll watch John Wick.
Now I'll watch Big Trouble in Little China and Nobody.
Yes,
That
and
picture.
tomorrow, Nobody. Yes, I'm curious to see both. Yeah.
You'll enjoy it, I think.
Forward to it.
You really will enjoy Nobody, yeah. Big Trouble in Little China is very, very funny and very cool for a lot of reasons, because you have Kirk Douglas in the starring role there.
Okay, yes.
Kurt Russell, not Kirk
Various
Douglas.
films. Oh, Kirk Russell. Yeah, okay. Very good. Yeah, Kurt Russell, fantastic actor, a lot of fun, but
His best role, I would say.
Yeah, so he plays this very muscular truck driver kind of character, and you immediately expect, he is our action hero, he is our super guy, he is our John Wick, but he's a freaking idiot.
Yeah.
In every sense, and he wants to be the hyper competent guy, but he never is, and he makes stupid mess up mistakes, and he tries to make himself look tougher than he is, and it's just such a joy in him pretending to be a superhero.
A big mouth, but he's hilarious. Yeah.
Huge big mouth. It's a lot of fun. But in the end, he becomes that. He actually succeeds in spite of his lack of ability.
Wonderful.
So yes, there's a lot of homework we have to do.
Yes.
I have to watch Big Trouble in Little China again, and I have to finish watching John Wick.
Rock and roll.
Well, look, John Wick is good in that it becomes, like Kant said, deeper in the plot in the next ones. So you learn about the whole assassins group and everything. Like, personally, one of the things I really found boring about the first one was it's just a revenge plot of him being a super badass anti-mafia guy against this Russian mafia, which I found so freaking boring. But it is a lot more interesting when it gets into him being a member of the assassins group. Anyway, so do life drawing and pose yourself in fight pictures, and do that if you want to do a fight scene.
But choreograph first. Don't make my mistake, and then have to scrap the whole thing and go back to formula. So, yeah, choreograph first.
Oh, just trace porn pictures, and that's a winning success. That's professional comic artist too. All right. Thank you very much for listening to Quackcast number 646.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go out and start a fight. What's that from? Your assignment? Go out and start a fight. And then get the photos of the crime scene. I'll try and get them.
Start a fight club where they never actually fight in a way that you can reference in any way.
Yeah, the fighting is terrible in that.
Yeah.
Movie. It's not about fighting, it's about getting injured in a fight.
Yeah.
That's what Fight Club's about. It's getting beaten up. It should really be called Beaten Up.
Yeah. But it doesn't sound nearly as cool. So
not as good of a title, yeah, it's true.
It's a masochist club.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
okay.
yeah. Bye, people.
Bye.
Bye.